Hi, welcome to straw weaving part 2. This is where I left up last time. I set up my loom with my straws and my beads. I got my warp on there. That's my black threads that I threaded through the middle of my straws. I have a loose knot here down on the end. And since I have my name taped right here, I'm gonna go ahead and make a new one, just a little piece of masking tape. And I'm just gonna come down here on my knot, or maybe even just one string, and make a little tag down here at the bottom of my weaving, because I'm getting ready to take this piece off. So I would use a Sharpie and put my name down there at the bottom. Once I have a little bit of weaving here on my straws, a good inch or so, then I can take this tape off, and I'm just gonna tear it and pull it off, and then I can toss that piece. I don't need it anymore. I've come to the end of my first piece of yarn, so I'm going to go ahead and tie on another piece. So I'm going to take another piece of yarn. This time I'm going to use a different color, so this is a great chance to change colors if you want to. And I'm just going to tie them in a knot. So I'm going to take and make like a letter X here and kind of twist them together, and then I'm going to make another X, pull one through the center of that circle so you can kind of see how it looks when it's really loose, and then I'm just going to take and pull it really tight, and I'm going to give it a good tug on both ends. And then it's got a little bit of these little tails sticking out. You can either cut them off so that they kind of blend in a little bit better, or you can leave them out and they'll just be kind of little shaggy tails hanging out in your weaving. So then once I do that, I'm going to keep weaving. So I'm going to go under this yellow straw, or behind, in front of the pink, behind the yellow, in front of the pink, behind the pink. I've looped around, in front of the yellow, behind the pink, in front of the yellow. So I'm going under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. And I'm just going to keep that up. And I'm going to keep going back and forth, under, over, under, over. And once you get the hang of the pattern, you can go a lot faster. As I start to get closer towards the top of my straws, I can either take my straw and kind of push it up from the bottom just a little bit, or I can take my yarn and kind of push it down on my straws. Now, I don't want to pull my yarn all the way off just yet. I'm getting awfully close. I'm going to weave a little bit more, and then I'll show you what it looks like as I start to get closer towards the bottom. Okay, I have woven on my pink string, and then I actually tied on a little bitty knot and added even another pink string. And so now I've got a good length of weaving here on my straws. I'm starting to run out of space at the top. So that's why all this string is down here, is so that our weaving is going to eventually be on our warp threads. So I'm going to take and start kind of pulling some of this yarn off of my straws and down onto that black thread that I have there. I can take my straw from the bottom and kind of push up a little bit if that makes it easier, and kind of pull down. What I don't want to do is pull all of the yarn off of my straws and down onto the strings. If I do that, then my straws are up here all loosey-goosey and they don't have anything to hold them together. Because remember, when we started, we put a piece of masking tape there. And right now, the yarn is what's holding it together. So I can scoot my yarn down to the bottom of my straws, but I don't want to pull it all the way off. Okay? So I am to a little tail end here where I'm ready to tie on some more yarn. So I would make a little X with my yarn, twist them together, make another X, pull one through the center circle, and then pull that knot really tight. Make sure that it's not going to move. And then if I want to cut off these little tails, I can. And then now I'm ready to keep weaving. So I can see that my yarn is behind my yellow straw, so that means I'm going to come around to the front, in front of the yellow, behind the pink, in front of the yellow, behind the pink. And my straws aren't super even across the top, and that doesn't bother me. If it starts to kind of bug you a little bit, you can wiggle them around and get them a little bit straighter. Just make sure you don't lose all of that yarn there down there at the bottom. So again, over, under, over, under. Okay, I have tied on one more piece of yarn. I went back to this variegated blue and purple and pink colors that I was using. I'm gonna make this a lot shorter than my actual strings are. Sometimes I weave it and I push those strings all the way to the bottom, and I weave all of that space in, and then I even weave all the way up till I have just maybe 3 or 4 inches of straw showing at the top. But since I know that I want this to be a bracelet, I can kind of see that that's about as big as my wrist is. Those black strings were a little bit longer than I really needed. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to finish this off. I'm gonna take this little tail of yarn I have here, and I'm going around my end of my straw, and I'm just gonna tie a little knot right here. I'm going to go around it a couple times to try to get kind of a little knot. I'm going to leave this tail on there right for now to make sure that it's good and knotted before I cut it off, because I might need to mess with it a little bit after I pull my straws out. Okay, so if we remember, the straws are just there as our loom. They're just there to help us get our weaving. So then now I'm ready to take my straws out. If my straws need pushed up just a little bit, I might kind of push them up a little bit that way. If I wanted to keep going, that's what I would do. I would just leave this down at the bottom, and I would keep weaving. But I think that I'm ready to take this off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my beads off at the top here. And I'm going to kind of hold on to that yarn. I don't want to lose it down inside, and I'm gonna pull that straw off. And the whole time I was kind of holding it down here too, because I don't need those, but I just want to make sure. So then now when I let go of it, my weaving is still on my black thread. I didn't want it to accidentally kind of slip up too far. And I have plenty of extra on this one, but sometimes my students will weave it a lot closer to the top, and so it's a little bit harder to pull these out. Cut that little bead right off the top, hang on to that black thread while I'm kind of pulling on it, and then let go, and then pull off that straw. Pull up just a little bit on my black thread, cut that bead off the top, and give that straw a pull. So then now I have my warped black threads here and here. I have that loose knot down there at the bottom that I'm actually going to undo, because I'm going to finish this off a little bit different. I am going to slide my weaving down a little bit. It's all on those strings, so I can move that around, and I can make this as tight or as loose as I want, kind of pushing it down or pulling it up. Like that. And I'm going to go ahead and untie this knot right here too. This is another reason I left some extra on the ends, is so that I can do a little bit nicer finish. If I just wanted to be super simple, I would just take and make a big knot on that end and a big knot on this end and call it good. But I'm going to show you a little bit fancier way to finish these if you want to. So I can't just knot these 2 strings, because that's what my other color of yarn is on top of, but I can take these 2 strings and the 2 strings next to it and knot those together. So I'm going to make a little loop and make a knot. And then I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to take these 2 strings and these 2 strings and make a little loop. That's my little name tag. It's okay, it can stay there. Make a little knot like that. So then now, if I was making a scarf, that's a lot nicer finish to the bottom of my scarf than just one big knot. So this one's going to be a little bracelet, and I think that that's going to help me with my little strands to tie it around my wrist. I've got this little strand in there, and I'm going to tie it in this knot just to help give it a little bit more reinforcement that it doesn't unravel. So tie my knot, and then now I know that that string is knotted to itself and it's knotted inside of that black thread. So then now I'm going to cut it off. And then I'm going to take, again, it's the strings that are inside of this row and then inside this row, and I'm going to knot them together. There you go. And then you could leave it like that, and you can wrap it around, and you would be able to tie it onto your wrist that way. I think that I am going to see if I could maybe braid these pieces together and tie a knot at the bottom, and then it would make a nicer string that I could tie around my wrist. But there you go. Thanks for watching.